of the Allgood City Council for this Tuesday, May 8, 2018. We'll have a roll call. Mrs. Flatt,
Honorable Mayor Dyer,
present.
Honorable Vice Mayor Norris,
Present.
Honorable Councilman Bilbrey,
Present.
Honorable Councilman Grant,
Present.
Honorable Councilman Hill.
Present.
This time I ask you to stand and we'll have our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Father in heaven, we humbly approach thy throne of grace this evening, thanking you, Father, for all the life's blessings, thanking you for the sunshine that you've bestowed upon us. Father, we're mindful of those folks that are sick, that are shut in, that cannot get out due to whatever infirmity they may have. We're also mindful, Father, of our city, its employees, and their families. We ask that you keep showering your blessings upon them. And we also ask, Father, as we move through this meeting tonight, that we're able to discuss and reason together and make sound decisions. We ask all of these things in your Son's name. Amen. Chief, would you lead us, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've each had a copy of our agenda for several days now and had a chance to look over it, go through it, and of course talk through it in a work session last night. I will make a motion that we consider the approval of this agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
I second.
A motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 2 is to consider the approval of the minutes of the council meeting held last month, April 10, 2018. And
I'll make a motion.
we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
On to our new business. The first item under the new business is to consider the approval to suspend the reading of 2 separate ordinances, 625-18 and 626-18. I'll make a motion that we suspend this reading.
I'll second.
Motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
The next item is to consider the approval of second and final reading of ordinance 625-18, amending the fiscal year's 2017-2018 budget passed by ordinance 616-17. That is amending the fiscal year that we are currently under. And last month we went over those items that were necessary to amend this budget, and at this time the floor will now be open for public comment on this ordinance. So if you have any comments concerning these amendments, please step to the microphone and state your name and address, and you will be heard.
Richard Wood, 343 Brookside Drive. I can't recall everything that you guys presented in the budget last time. But the one thing that I was wondering, the impact on the current year budget of which you're wanting to amend, as I understand that some of the expenditures that we are making has not come out of this budget, but from other sources. And one in particular, I'll just throw one out, is the drug fund, okay? In other words, using those resources rather than ours, thereby keeping our budget in line so we don't have to pay more money for taxes. And I'd like to get a clarification, if you can, what are some of the other sources of funding that we're getting, and, you know, how are we better utilizing? I know that there was I think there was a developer that was fixing to come in and try to put some apartments in that you guys kind of put a stop to, which is now part of our parkland.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm happy you did it, okay? Because that's another one that may come to impact on the next budget. And that is, as I understand, we're going to have a transportation plan that's gonna be developed in, 6 months or so for all Putnam County?
You are correct on that, sir. In fact, I received an email today from County Executive Randy Porter.
Okay,
It was sent to all mayors and city managers for Putnam County, along with several other planners, Mr.
Sure.
Rush, our planner being one of them, with a detailed outline of our transportation plan that we are going to approach the state of Tennessee with.
okay,
As to the drug fund, that was used to purchase a gator for the police department. Those
Okay.
funds came out of that drug fund, so it would not impact the budget for the city of Allgood. Our two major expenses that are being amended on this second and final reading, of course, is the purchase of the park property, along with the recent purchase of the White Plains Plantation.
okay. Fine, I have no problem with that. But the one thing I would like to talk to you, whether it's in this year's budget or next year's budget, it's kind of one of those lines that go mirror. We have had some developers come in. They have been able to purchase property. They have been able to change the zoning. And I'm talking going from individual houses to either townhouses or developers coming in, developing the land to have more apartments. What I'm wondering is, in concert with the transportation plan that affects Allgood, until that is firmly in place, I, the single citizen, would like to see you guys put a moratorium, if it is possible, on all developers coming in here to do multiple housing for the city of Allgood. But what I would like to see is, let's give them a green light if they're coming in here to build a business. We need businesses. We need that revenue coming in. What we don't need, in my humble opinion, is more townhouses, more multiple dwelling units, because that impacts us with all the additional traffic. I know that you guys are trying to work on Dry Valley. I think Dry Valley should be renamed the Indianapolis Speedway between certain hours, because it's like you have that. I know that you are currently in the process of trying to address the corner of Cooper and Dry Valley. That's a
Yes,
big
sir.
problem. But one of the things I would like to see you do, so that it does not impact the city any further, is see if the developer who's building the 6 townhouses can maybe come up with half the money to do something on that corner to help us with that corner.
I understand.
Okay, and
So anything above R1, you'd like to see slowed down a whole lot.
completely,
Okay.
yeah, because it's like, we've got too much traffic, we don't have enough businesses. I mean, when you stop and take a look, you know, how many businesses do we have? How many, and your budget guru's not here tonight, so I'm not gonna pin you down on that, but when you take a look at the amount of money that's coming in from taxes, that comes in from those businesses, and you see how much money is coming in from taxes from townhouses, from apartment houses, you got a big disparity. I don't know what the ratio is, I don't know what the income is, but that's just something that I'm concerned about. And obviously, I would like to see it done sooner than later, But I also recognize that there are some that agreements have been made, and you are going to go ahead and proceed, which I would expect you to, for those that you've made the commitment that they can go ahead and build. I mean, I don't have any problem finishing up that, but as far as new ones, effective from the date of this if you can do it, fine. If it's the next meeting, I understand that, but there needs to be a cutoff, because it's like, guys, I don't want this to become a bedroom community of apartments for Cookville and Tennessee Tech. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Anyone else have comments on this second and final reading concerning this budget, these budget amendments? If not, then I will close the floor for public comment and entertain a motion for these budget amendments for fiscal year 2017-18.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion on the floor
I'll second.
and a second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Arnable Bilberry.
Yes.
Arnable Grant.
Yes.
Arnable Hill.
Yes.
Okay. Our next item is to consider approval of first reading of ordinance 626-18, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019. We've each had a chance to look over these numbers from each department, from Public Works, from sanitation, from the police department, from our general staff areas, and discussed these at length last night during our work session. However, I think it prudent for us to have those discussions again here in a public meeting. So are there any comments or questions or summations, if you will, from the council? Mr. Hill?
I'm never shy here. No, I mean, my biggest concern here is that, you know, the five of us are basically overseeing this project. We're not getting into the nitty-gritty details of this. So what brings me, what I think our duty is in this whole process is to scrutinize it.
Absolutely.
And make sure that those, nothing seems quote unquote out of whack. And so what a big part of this that I think we should be on the record for just for posterity is, you know, that this is also reviewed by the state comptroller's office as well. This is just a projection, as I understand it. Please feel free to correct me.
These are
These are-
projections based on what we believe we will
Anticipated need.
anticipate for next year's tax.
And we've gone through them. I've gone through them. I asked my questions, the things that didn't look, the things I had questions on. But what I think gives us the scrutiny that we need is that the comptroller's office does a deep dive on it, and if there's anything quote unquote out of whack,
Yes.
that's where the real rubber hits the road on just the projections. And then at the end of the year, this is what the auditors say, okay, this is what you projected, this is what actually happened,
Correct.
and that end of the year audit. So it's much more, this budgetary process is much more than just us looking through and saying this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. It's a three-step dance of that's what we do, and then the comptroller general looks over our shoulders, and then the auditors verify that there was no abuse of these dollars.
Correct. And I think that's a very good point that you brought up that a lot of people are not aware of. The State of Tennessee Comptroller's Office does look over this budget each and every time it's presented.
They have to
we
approve-
do
They have
have,
to approve it, don't they?
yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, we do approve our own budget, but, you know, if there's something that's funky or looks out of whack to them, they're gonna contact us immediately and say, what is this and why is this? And, you know, we have to have a good explanation as to where and when we're using these tax dollars. So, and we have to have it itemized and line itemed and laid out for everyone to be able to see, so. Mr. Grant?
I just want to make a comment that the tax dollars that come in that we are trying to appropriate in all the different divisions of the budget, it's money that is coming from our community, theoretically going back into our community the most effective way possible. And we do have a windfall to make sure that in case of an emergency, we are able to make payroll. We're not living paycheck to paycheck. But on top of that, at the same time, we are not IRA. We're like, our goal is to not stockpile $15 billion, because then that robs the citizens of Allgood of paved roads. And if we have the money to be able to take care of Allgood, that's where the money for the budget is going into, to make sure that we're going to take care in case something is going wrong, in case a hurricane comes through Allgood. We've got stuff to take care, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the citizens of Allgood are getting the best bang for their buck. Because if they're pouring into it, we want to make sure that we have a good community to show for that, and not just a big bank account with a bunch of zeros on the end.
Well, I think at the end of the day, that sometimes is lost too to the public, that this is not a bank, it is a business, and it should be run accordingly. And those decisions are made based on our projections, of course, and as Mr. Grant pointed out, to each individual department, as funding is necessary to make sure that make payroll, that we have the proper equipment to do the jobs, to ensure the safety of our employees, as well as the safety of the people of the town. So, very good point. Mr. Bilbrey?
I have no comment.
Ms.
I
Norris?
ain't got no comment.
Good questions, good comments. Really appreciate those very, very much. And of course, I'll allude to some things that are going to be on the budget for the next year or so. Of course, again, the park purchase and the White Plains purchase. And if you haven't noticed, we've started our fire hall, and eventually that will get out of our budget process too. Those dollars are still there. They're still tied up until that project is complete. So going forward, I think it's a really, really sound budget. And if we approve it tonight, and of course at our next month's meeting, and the comptroller gives us a thumbs up, then we'll have a budget for the following year. So with that being said, I'm going to make a motion that we accept this on our first reading, to adopt the annual budget and tax rate, which, by the way, will remain the same. Your property tax rate will remain the same for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 6 is to consider approval to purchase an online storage and software plan in the amount of, an X amount right now until we actually discuss this. Chief, would you like to talk about this, sir?
We looked at two different categories. We looked at an in-house server, we looked at a cloud server. Cloud server would bring forth a lot of different advantages for us that the in-house server would not. Currently, for example, we're paying about $600 a year just to have email access for city employees. The server will actually take that in for us, so that would be a reduction. The fact that we'll also be able to access it from anywhere. If city manager, for example, is in Florida, he can actually go in and pull up a document run. It's going to be mainly used right now for the police department, although it is available for all city departments, and except for Ms. Platt's area, I believe. I'm sorry, there's one area of the city that it will not be. Water.
Utilities.
Utilities, thank you. Everything else will be available for it. We'll be able to section it off and use it for what we need. It's also one of the questions I had been The other good thing about going with the cloud is that we will be able to have all of our computers automatically get updated by Microsoft, and we don't have to pay that yearly fee every year for each laptop and every computer we have in the system. It's all built into this one thing. So our expenditure for the year is right at $20,000, a little over 20. But we're also going to be recouping some of that money by some of the add-ons that it's going to be included in there that we're paying separate for now.
Of course, this will enhance communication among not only the officers, but just all city employees.
One of the things that I'm very big into, making sure the public is aware of what we're doing. By using the server, we'll be able to expand information out to the public. We're getting ready, for example, we're getting ready to go to an online program where a citizen can go in, type in information, they're going on vacation. Secure and come to us, we'll institute a special watch on their house when they're gone. I would like to expand those abilities to the citizens, and this server will allow us to do that. Plus, we'll be able to web host our own stuff and put a little bit more out there. That will be a little bit cheaper for us in the long run.
I want to make a comment. Also, if we go to a cloud, if something horrendous happens to City Hall, tornado goes through, we have water damage, we don't have to worry about losing information, or we don't have to worry about backing things up and making sure that they're in a secure site. If we are getting, I think I said this last night, if we are getting to a problem that Microsoft servers crash, we have got a huge issue that is way more important than
Worldwide, not
yeah,
just all
exactly.
good.
Yeah, if Microsoft goes down in the next 5 years, we have different things going on. So I think going to a cloud-based hosting is smart. There's only pros for a system this size. There's only pros to go into a cloud, and very few cons, in my opinion.
And I think going with this system too, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, allows us to expand whenever we decide to.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other question or comment on this from the council? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to go with the cloud. To go with the cloud option, 5-year cost $24,300.
I have a motion on the floor for that. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
All right. We're to the city administrator's report, but in Mr. Morrison's absence. Chief, anything to report from the police department?
Actually, things are going really
Okay.
well. No complaints whatsoever.
Okay, good.
When you got the tasers? Tasers are in, we just, Friday, we got an officer certified, we'll start issuing those out as soon as we get training on that.
Next, the fire hall. The pad work and construction are continuing. Now that the weather's broke and everything is taken care of from a contractual standpoint, I think we'll see a lot of motion in the next coming weeks. And I, for one, speaking for myself, but been here a while, and I'm really, really anxious for this to get up and get done. Really am. As far as the park grant is concerned, we're waiting further direction to move forward. We still have, if I'm not mistaken, we still have an application out for another grant to help funding with the park. Of course, we got the first one to set up the master plan. So Keith is always in process of trying to work on the grants for things moving forward. So we're still waiting on word on when we may get approval or at least some sort of notice going forward. So, and the water and sewer project, which the only thing lacking is our easement phase, and we are very, very close down to single digits as far as getting our easements taken care of for that. So as soon as that is in place, that project will begin. I will also report on the farmer's market. This council and public can expect an update possibly next month from our engineer with James C. Haley concerning that particular project. So we're getting a little traction on it as well. Any other question or comment on any of these items from the council? Brings us to our portion of the meeting, our hearing of citizens and or delegations. Again, if you would like to make a comment, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you will be heard. Okay, since no one is approaching, I will pretty much say the same thing I try to say every month. This government belongs to you, the people. You have access to it 24/7, 365. We do work for you. And anytime you have a question or comment, please don't hesitate to contact one of us or our city administrator, and we'll be glad to assist you any way we can or get a question answered for you. Please come back to every meeting possible, because again, it is your government. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. We are adjourned.